Welcome to the London Property Podcast, your go-to source for navigating the complex and ever-changing London real estate market. Our digital marketplace provides informative and educational content from industry leaders through podcasts and videos. We cover various aspects of the real estate experience, including buying and selling, finance, law, tax, construction, design, and more. Join us as we delve into the latest trends and developments in the market and gain valuable insights from our panel of experts.
Hello and welcome to London Property. I'm your host Farnaz Fazaipour, and today we're doing our market update videos, and we're delighted to welcome back to the show Jeremy Davidson. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Jeremy has spent his entire career working at the top end of the property market with a special focus on Knightsbridge, Belgravia and Chelsea. And we're going to hand it over to Jeremy now to tell us what's been going on in these locations in the recent past.
What's been happening in the market? Well, a lot of wait and see, I think, since the election. And we were all hoping for some clarity in the budget, which we didn't really get, or at least not any clarity that was particularly welcomed. So I think a lot of people are just sitting and waiting to see. And I think also, there's also a realization that we have now got a socialist government. And again, that's just causing people to pause. And it's not like the last one. I mean, Tony Blair was not really, he was Margaret Thatcher's greatest protege, probably. So, that's what people were imagining this Labour government was going to be. I think they're probably wrong. It's, I think everybody's just sort of trying to work things out.
So not a lot of activity, although it's sporadic. I think that, there are people who've been watching the market. They think it's not going to get any lower. There tend to be cash purchases and they are diving in. Yeah,
there've been a couple of, very big sales, but then, they don't really, they don't have much relevance to the everyday level at the top end of the market or the upper middle to top end of the market, where there are buyers out there. The disconnect is between the vendors' expectations and what the buyers are prepared to pay, and the buyers are sort of in charge, and the vendors, where they're clever, they're realizing that, and therefore deals can be done.
What I've noticed is that if somebody bought their property in sort of 2014, 2015...
They're losing a lot of money.
They're losing a lot of money, but they're the ones who are sort of trying to hold on for dear life.
Correct.
Whereas if you're buying a property for someone who's owned it for a long time, then they're much more likely to accept today's valuations.
They are. Even earlier than 2014, it's not that difficult to tell somebody who bought a house in Chelsea in 2010 that their house is worth the same. And that's a very difficult thing for, concept, because imagine it's not worth, if you think of inflation in the meantime and so on, it's been a pretty poor investment for them. It's difficult for people to contemplate that, it's a, very major capital city, that their main asset has gone backwards.
So do you think the market's going to go from one where people were taking advantage of the opportunities in the real estate market to very much on a need to have basis? So people are actually transacting because they need a home and they need to move. So it's sort of going to come back to the locals.
I think that's right. I think it's, which is what the Central London property market used to be 30, 40 years ago. You bought a property because you needed a home. Yeah. And that is where the market is strong. And the deals are being done. And it's also quite interesting that houses are becoming more back into vogue because these are people's principal residence. And so, they're happy to pay for those, for properties like that, because they're going to be living in them for 15, 20, 25, maybe even 30 years. The more speculative purchase, the discretionary purchaser, if they're going to buy something, they probably were going for something different anyway, an apartment in a new development or whatever. They'll only buy if they can see very significant value, and very significant value means a very big loss for the seller.
The other thing that's a little bit worrying is the Bank of England reduced the rates, yet quite a number of mortgage banks took their rates up?
Well,
and what's frightening about that, we did a recent interview with a very successful real estate professional investor, and he was commenting about what there is to come when all these fixed rate mortgages expire, and that we haven't even seen the bloodbath. So what worries me is when the interest rates went down and the bank rates went up, is that because they're looking at their balance sheets thinking, oh my God,
they know what's down the road.
All that is about to come. And is that why, we didn't see this sort of attractive offering from mortgage providers, even though the Bank of England took the rates down?
Well, look, I mean, the thing about interest rates is they go up much more quickly than they come down. And when I'm saying interest rates, I mean that in the terms of your mortgage rates more than interest rates. So it is kind of sort of normal that the banks don't automatically follow a cut in interest rates from the Bank of England. But it is interesting what you say, and yeah, I mean, I think that is also a problem. Is that a lot of people took fixed rates, when they could get something for maybe 1.5%, and suddenly they're going to be paying 5%. Yeah, we know there's quite a lot of mortgage-related stress in the market already, as usual, vendors try to cover that up, and usually they manage to. But it's, you just sense it as an agent. You can sense it, and so yes, that would be exacerbated by people coming off fixed rates. Yes, indeed.
And there's been a lot of talk about Americans in the press saying, all the Liberal Democrats are coming and they're buying in London and they're staying in London. I mean, I think realistically, what seems to be going on is there's a lot of people asking a lot of questions about what to do next. I'd like to think that when push comes to shove, people choose lifestyle over taxes, and that maybe all these people who are inquiring about what to do next may not actually all exit. Maybe the ones who are planning to naturally exit. But are you seeing any American influence into the market?
Well, firstly, on people that are exiting, I think that there is a tax wherever you go. I mean, there's a Dubai tax, and the tax is you have to live in Dubai. If you're into culture and all the things that a place like London can offer, you're not going to find that in Dubai. So your money may be tax free, but it's like a tax on life. Now, there are many people who will say, well, that's fine for me because I don't like going around the British Museum. So fine, then they'll be happy in Dubai. Every place has some strength and some weakness, and to give up one's life and home in London and move somewhere is a really, really big thing. And what's relevant about my saying that, is the question you asked about Americans coming over to live in London. And there's been a lot of talk about it, a lot of talk amongst agency professionals, like, we'll be saved by the Americans and so on. I don't think it's going to be that every second person that you walk past in the King's Road is going to be speaking with an American accent, not by a long, long way. I mean, it's an attractive place for the Americans to come because obviously the big barrier for the Americans in Europe is normally language, and so they don't have that barrier here. They're coming here for lifestyle and cultural reasons. They're not coming here to save money because the IRS will follow them wherever they go. And they may be coming to get their children educated here, although there is also a very good American school in St. John's Wood. But yes, I mean, but again, it's a big leap. It's crossing the pond. It's not like sort of moving from London to some Provence or something like that, where it's a big thing for people to do. But the Americans are currently active in the market, whereas up until a few years ago they weren't really. In the heyday of investment banking, in the sort of late 90s to 2007, 2008, there were obviously a lot of Americans, and they were great to deal with because they wanted houses in Kensington, Chelsea, and Belgravia. They were pretty easy about what they wanted, and we did plenty of deals. It's not going to be like that. That was the heyday. The heyday was during the heyday of investment banking when, they were big spenders and they were great clients. This is probably richer people than bankers, probably people with very significant wealth, less of them. And yeah, it's probably fair to say you earn your fee.
To get the job done.
If to get the job done, yeah.
And they're just taking a political holiday, thinking we're just going to go off for 4 years and see how it goes.
I think it's probably a bit of a trend, and people follow trends. But we're probably talking about a few hundred people, not maybe a couple of thousand or something. But
so, what would you say is the biggest influence of foreign investment at the moment? For personal use, not necessarily coming into to buy rental investments, which is a whole other subject. But are you seeing, from the activity at the top end of the market, any particular interest from nationalities, money coming from any regions?
Probably the Middle East and Indians, I would say,
are the most active at the moment.
Yeah, they are. There's a lot of them, obviously, and they've got a lot of money. And the UK particularly appeals to both for different reasons, for very different reasons. But they've sort of propped up the Mayfair new developments market, 20 Grosvenor Square and 1 Grosvenor Square, and so on and so forth. They're the big, most obvious anyway.
So that's another interesting thing that we're seeing. Whereas you and I will remember the day that something unmodernized would have everyone jumping on it,
sure,
and trying to bid each other out of the picture.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if something's unmodernized, nobody wants it.
That's right.
Because 30% more to pay for building works, the reliability of the workforce, etc. So does that mean that the market for developers as we knew it is diminishing? Because you've got all these
difficult
high stamp duties and everything else. So to actually turn a profit is quite challenging.
I think it's pretty difficult being a developer these days, and the proof of that is that a lot of the, or certainly a number of the very successful developers that there were during the sort of heyday, the 1997 to 2014 heyday, if you want to call it, or 15 heyday. Those guys are mainly doing private client work now. So they are mainly just working for private clients. The banks sort of pulled away from lending to developers to do single one-off, very, very high value houses, let's say. And so they've moved over to doing private client work, which, I think is also, it's less lucrative, but it's more reliable for them. And it's apart from the very big developers like Loader and people like that, I'd say it's pretty difficult.
So you really have to do it on scale for it to make sense, because one-offs is just it's just not there anymore.
Native land, people like co-partnering with Grosvenor, stuff like that. Leconfield, these guys, these guys can do it, but not many can.
Do you see any other shift in the market that's become apparent from the activities or lack thereof?
In the sense of what it means to the market?
So you're seeing people exit the rental market, or you're seeing investors looking at bulk purchasing rental investments or anything like that?
Well, I think that obviously a lot of people are exiting the rental market. I mean, you can see a lot of properties which just look like they're ex-rental properties coming to the market, because there's a lot of pain and not much gain to be a small rental investor.
Yeah, there was an article actually recently saying about 25% of the stock on Rightmove are actually all rental stock.
Yeah, well, that's very significant, and it could be because they say where's the joy in being when I say a small investor, you might have 5 properties. They could be five very valuable properties. So in sort of value terms, it could be a £20 million portfolio. But why would you want to? There's other things you can do with that money.
And so planning has also had an impact on prime central London, where you can't amalgamate and you can't make these big mega mansions. So are we to think now that if you have got a property that has been amalgamated, it's going to become part of an exclusive club because you can't do it anymore. Are those investments going to become more interesting and have more value?
Well, that is true. I mean, in the sense that the supply is now finite there, but it's always been the case that if you've had a really fabulous, the biggest flat in Cadogan Square or in Eaton Square, it's a rare thing, and there are a number of flats where we keep saying, "Oh, if only that one would come for sale," and it's not going to unless there's a death in the family or something. That's the only time things like that get sold. So yes, I mean, if you are holding a 5,000 square foot flat or something like that, you can't anymore amalgamate 2 or 3 flats. I don't really understand why. I mean, the UDP policy is not ever going to be affected by the amount of sort of multi-million pound properties that get amalgamated. But I suppose they can't have one law for, a certain type of property value or resident and another for another. So I understand. But it seems a little counterproductive in terms of what the property market needs.
Well, I mean, I can understand that losing units is directly opposite to trying to get more housing.
It is.
I get that.
Yeah.
So what I wonder now is, markets find a way, and, people want to transact and people want to invest in the UK. And, you want to do things that are going to have some demand. So I wonder whether now we're not going to actually have a reversal where, you had a mega mansion and then you turn it back into units.
Yes, you could. I mean, in the sense that there was always a disconnect between the value of houses and flats. And in the old days, if you had 3 flats in a building, it could never match the value of the next door property if it was a whole house. Let's say if you take Cadogan Place, if you had 3 maisonettes in a building in Cadogan Place, the value of the house was that much greater than the individual value of 3 maisonettes added together. That could change. That could change. Also, I think, lockdown we still don't really know. Lockdown has changed a lot about the way that people feel about things, and maybe people feel as though they don't need such. But I think people have become more prepared to wander, and try living in different places for a certain amount of time and just have life experiences. And so therefore, people may revert to living in slightly smaller properties and having living a different kind of life. Not spending.
It's sort of the digital nomad life, right? You come to cities more as a transient thing, but you actually live in a beautiful place in the middle of nowhere as a longer term. Kind of solution.
You could. I mean, the UK is not great for that because it takes you so long to get out of London, to get to that place. But it's possible. But they might commute from outside the UK, where they've got that sort of glorious bit of nature that they want to spend more time in. So things like that are possible. But again, we don't really know because it's still. Although the lockdown seems like a long time in the past, it's not in terms of life.
Making real estate investments. That's quite a short period of time. But I'd like to try and forget about lockdown. But I think that a lot of people who went to the country and thought they want to stay there have actually done a couple of winters and thought, maybe not.
I think that yes, that seemed appealing. And I think also part of that was that during lockdown we had the most unbelievable weather. If you remember, it was like spring, early summer every day from sort of late February onwards. So and that wasn't a normal spring and early summer. And so I think that it's a big thing to do. To up sticks and leave. So
if you had a crystal ball and you had to predict what's going to happen in 2025, please don't say nothing and give me a bit more action.
Well, I think the government's got to be a bit less gloomy. There's too much of this. We've got to make hard decisions and tough choices, and people with the broader shoulders. These are not the sort of. This wouldn't be the sort of rhetoric you'd have got from Tony Blair. He's a sort of happy, smiley, shiny, positive person. And everything that this Labour government is doing just reminds people of a certain age, people who are old enough to remember, such as myself, the grimness of Labour government's past of the 1970s. Nobody wants that. I mean, the UK in the early to mid 1970s was probably on a par with the German Democratic Republic. The communist. I mean, it was that grey. Nobody wants that. So I think they need to change their rhetoric. I think they need to be more positive. And if they're more positive, people will feel more positive. You've got to. It's all about the mood, and the mood is not good, and the mood needs to improve. And once that happens, London is still London. Yes, as I say, there are all these other places like Switzerland. There's a price to pay if you go and live in Switzerland. There's a price to pay if you go and live in Dubai. You can't move to Milan if you don't speak Italian. It's like it's like Paris. I mean, the French aren't going to. I mean, they'll talk to you through gritted teeth in English, even if they speak perfect English.
And apparently in Milan they're already suffering from not having enough big properties to let out.
Yeah. So it's not a big place. I mean, okay, it's great for the weekend because there are fantastic places you can go. You're a few hours, 3 hours drive to St. Moritz. You're Lake Como, 45 minutes. You're in Portofino in 3 hours. That's great, but
Well, I'd like to think that London will pull through and everything will turn out to be positive in 2025.
It will.
Well, thank you for coming to talk to us.
Thank
and we
you
look
for
forward to
inviting
having
me.
you back again soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We hope you found that insightful. If you have got any questions or any challenges you'd like to address at the top end of the market, then we'd be delighted to hear from you to guide you in the right direction, connect you with the right professional.
Thanks for tuning in to our latest episode of the London Property Podcast. Head over to our website where you can browse our exclusive network of top experts driving the market. As a member, you'll have direct access to our experts and their networks. Our award-winning content will help you choose the right professionals for your needs and make informed decisions about your investments. Personal recommendations are a powerful tool in connecting with trusted professionals. Let us introduce you to the right people to help you achieve your real estate goals. Contact us now to learn more about becoming a member and gaining access to these valuable resources, or joining our directory of experts.